Let's start here. Because this is where most people get it wrong. You think their distance means they don't care. You think the silence is proof that they never loved you. You think the space is punishment for loving too hard. It's not. Avoidance isn't indifference. It's protection. It's not that they feel nothing. It's that they feel too much. Their entire nervous system is wired to believe that closeness equals danger. Connection feels like losing control. Vulnerability feels like stepping into a burning room with no exit. So when you reach out, when you express, when you get closer, they don't shut down because you're too much. They shut down because their body says, this isn't safe. You see, the avoidant doesn't avoid people. They avoid pain. They avoid the past that taught them love is unpredictable. They avoid the memories that made them believe affection always comes with conditions. And here's the truth you've probably never heard. They don't pull away because you did something wrong. They pull away because your closeness wakes up something inside them. They've spent a lifetime trying to quiet the fear of needing someone. Needing feels dangerous to someone who never had their needs met safely. To them, dependency is humiliation. Vulnerability is exposure. So when they start to feel love, their mind doesn't say, this feels good. It says, this could destroy me. You can't logic your way through that kind of fear. You can't convince them with words or chase them with explanations because this isn't happening in their mind. It's happening in their body. Their heart might want you, but their nervous system still remembers the chaos of love that hurt. So they protect themselves the only way they know how, by retreating. And listen, protection doesn't mean peace. It just means distance. They're not calm when they're away from you. They're numb. That numbness isn't freedom, it's anesthesia. It's survival. And survival is not the same thing as living. So what do you do when someone's love language is protection? You stop trying to convince them you're safe. You become safe within yourself. You stop personalizing their fear as rejection and start recognizing it as their defense. You stop chasing their comfort and start honoring your own. Because here's what happens when you understand this truth. You stop asking, why don't they love me the way I love them? And you start asking, what must it feel like to believe love and danger are the same thing? That's the moment empathy replaces insecurity. That's the moment power replaces panic. Avoidance isn't indifference. It's protection. And sometimes understanding that is the beginning of your healing too, because it stops you from fighting the wrong battle. You stop fighting to be seen. You start seeing clearly. You start to understand that their silence isn't the end of connection. It's the mirror that shows you how they learn to survive. And once you see that clearly, you can choose differently. You can stop being the one who takes their fear personally and start being the one who leads with calm. That's where the shift begins. Not by forcing them to open up, but by refusing to close down in response to their fear, because you can't teach love through pressure. You can only model safety through peace. Here's something I want you to remember. Love doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers through routine. Avoidants, those who protect through distance, don't love loudly. They love quietly, through consistency in small things. It's not the grand gestures you'll notice. It's the details that repeat themselves. The text that comes every morning, even if it's short, the way they make sure you got home safe, the fact that they remember your favorite coffee order, or the show you mentioned once. You see, consistency is safety to them. Predictability is peace. It's their nervous system's way of saying, you can rely on me, just don't rush me. And I know you want warmth, reassurance, words. You want the emotional certainty that says, I care about you. But for the avoidant, words are risky. They can't control how words will be received, but they can control actions. And control for them is safety. So they build love through routine because it's love that doesn't scare them. They show care by doing, not declaring. And when you understand that, you stop missing the proof that's been right in front of you. I want you to think of this for a second. Every time they remember something you said, every time they follow through after you stopped reminding them, every time they show up, even if it's quiet, even if it's awkward, that's not apathy. That's progress. Because for someone who fears emotional dependence, consistency is vulnerability. It means they're allowing you into their rhythm. It means you've become part of the structure that helps them feel steady. Now, here's the hard truth. You might miss it if you're waiting for fireworks. If you're chasing emotional volume, you'll overlook emotional reliability. But love that lasts doesn't come from fireworks. It comes from foundation. And consistency is the foundation of trust. So when you start noticing those small things, the routine, the steady communication, the way they fix something before you ask, don't dismiss it. Don't say they don't talk about their feelings. Realize this is how they're learning to stay. You don't need to reward it with overpraise. Just receive it with presence, a simple thank you, a gentle smile. That's all their nervous system needs to register this connection is safe. And here's the paradox you'll see. The more safety they feel, the more expressive they become. The quieter your expectations get, the louder their consistency grows. Because when you stop demanding proof, you start becoming the proof. Your calm tells their nervous system, you're safe here. And eventually, safety becomes their new definition of love. So don't overlook the steady rhythm for lack of passion. Don't call it indifference when it's actually effort. You're witnessing someone unlearn fear one small gesture at a time. And that, my friend, is sacred. It's not dramatic. It's not flashy, but it's real. And in the world of avoidance, real is revolutionary. Here's the second signal that says you matter. They help you, not with words, but with actions. See, avoidants speak in behavior. They fix things. They solve problems. They make sure life keeps moving. They don't sit you down and say, I love you. They tighten the bolt. They send you that article. They handle the crisis before you even knew it started. It's not romantic in the traditional sense. But for them, it's sacred. Because what looks like practicality is actually vulnerability in disguise. When they help you, they're saying, I'm still connected to you. When they give advice or step in quietly to make your day easier, it's their version of I care. Now, I know you might think, but I don't want fixing. I want feeling. And I get that. But to an avoidant, fixing is feeling. It's the only emotional currency that feels safe to spend. Think about this. When they offer a solution instead of comfort, it's not because they don't empathize. It's because comfort requires emotional exposure. But problem solving feels like control, and control feels safe. So when they're in that mode, don't rush to correct it. Don't say, I don't need advice. I need empathy. They're not hearing rejection in your words. They're feeling failure. And failure, to someone who equates love with danger, confirms their worst fear. I can't do this right. Here's how you shift that dynamic. Instead of judging their way of caring, recognize it. Say, thank you for helping me with that. That simple acknowledgement registers as acceptance in their nervous system. It's you telling them you're safe when you show up. And when someone feels safe showing up, eventually they start showing up emotionally too. Now, this doesn't mean you silence your own needs. You can still say, I appreciate your help, and what I really need right now is just for you to listen. But the key is your tone. Say it from calm, not craving. Because craving sounds like pressure. Calm sounds like invitation. This is the balance we forget. Avoidants don't need you to chase connection. They need you to hold connection. And when they see you can hold it without demanding, they start to relax. Their body learns that presence doesn't equal danger. It equals peace. So when they show love through practicality by helping, advising, planning, don't dismiss it as detachment. It's a bridge. Maybe not the one you wanted, but the one they know how to build right now. And the more you walk across that bridge with patience, the stronger it gets. Until one day, they stop building with just tools and start building with trust. This next signal is one of the most powerful Because it's not obvious. It's not loud, but it's real. Signal number 3, they let you see their imperfections. Now, for an avoidant, imperfection isn't just a flaw, it's exposure. It's the crack in the armor they've been patching their whole life. They've built their sense of safety on control of emotions, control of image, control of outcomes. So when they drop the mask, even for a second, that's not weakness, that's courage. When they let you see them tired, frustrated, messy, unsure, when they stop editing their words around you, stop performing calm, stop pretending everything's fine, that's not detachment, that's trust. You see, most avoidants were never taught that love could survive imperfection. Maybe they grew up in homes where mistakes meant rejection, where needing meant being shamed, where showing sadness meant weakness. So they learned early, if I stay composed, I stay safe. And that's why when they finally show you a glimpse of their humanity, when you see the worry in their eyes or hear the truth in their voice, you are witnessing something sacred. That's not just emotion, that's risk. Now, here's where most people slip up. We see that vulnerability and we rush to fix it. We say, it's okay, don't worry. We try to make it better, to smooth it over, to reassure. But what an avoidant really needs in that moment isn't comfort, it's permission. Permission to just be seen without judgment, without rescue, without someone trying to close the gap. You don't have to fill the silence. You don't have to solve the moment. You just have to be steady enough to hold it. Because here's the thing, every time you don't flinch when they show imperfection, you teach their nervous system something new. You teach it that love doesn't punish transparency, that closeness doesn't collapse, safety, and little by little, they start to trust that being real won't ruin everything. That's when they start to relax into the relationship instead of managing it. When they let you see their cracks, don't mistake that for them falling apart. They're not breaking down, they're breaking open. That's how intimacy starts with an avoidant. Not through words, but through courage, not through declarations, but through small moments of honesty that they once believed would cost them love. And if you can meet those moments with calm presence, if you can be the steady witness instead of the fixer, something shifts in both of you. They start to feel safer. You start to feel less desperate for proof. Because now you're both learning the same truth. Love isn't about perfection. It's about permission. Permission to be flawed. Permission to be seen. Permission to stop pretending you're fine when you're hurting. And when that happens, when both of you can be human in the same room without fear, that's not just connection. That's transformation. So the next time they stumble, confess, or simply let the mask drop, don't rush to make it neat. Just breathe. Hold the space, because that moment right there, that quiet, imperfect moment, is the sound of a guarded heart learning how to trust again. Let's talk about silence. Because silence in an avoidant relationship is one of the most misunderstood things in the world. We think silence means rejection. We think no contact means indifference. We think quiet equals absence. But it's not always that simple. There are two kinds of silence: the silence of escape and the silence of processing. When someone disappears to avoid accountability or shuts down because they're afraid of conflict, that's escape. It's the silence that builds walls. It's the quiet that says, I can't handle this. But there's another kind of silence, the kind that feels different in your body. It's calmer. It's not cold. It's not hostile. It's just still. That's the silence of someone who's learning how to stay without speaking. See, for avoidance, words can feel dangerous. When they're flooded with emotion, speaking feels like stepping into a minefield. Every word risks misunderstanding, escalation, exposure. So they go quiet not to punish you, but to protect themselves. And ironically, to protect the connection, they retreat not because they don't care, but because they care too much to risk blowing it up. Their silence is them saying, I need a minute to breathe so I don't destroy what matters. Now, here's where your power lies. You can tell the difference between cold silence and warm silence by the energy it carries. Cold silence feels like a wall. Warm silence feels like a pause. Cold silence makes your chest tighten. You feel like you're walking on eggshells. Warm silence feels grounded. You sense presence, even if no words are being exchanged. That's how you know they're still there, still connected, still processing. And if you can hold that pause without filling it with fear, if you can breathe through your own discomfort instead of chasing theirs, you teach the relationship something new. That silence can be safe. That space can hold connection instead of erasing it. Most of us grew up equating silence with abandonment. We rush to fill the void with words, explanations, apologies. But when you're dealing with an avoidant, silence is their language of regulation. It's where they sort their thoughts. It's where they calm their heart. It's where they begin to feel safe enough to return. So don't chase the noise. Don't demand answers mid-pause. Instead, anchor yourself. Because when you stay centered, you send their nervous system a signal stronger than words. You're allowed to take space, and I'm not going anywhere in panic. That's when silence transforms from avoidance into awareness. It stops being a gap between you. It becomes the bridge. It becomes the field where truth starts to grow, where both of you can hear what can't be said yet. So the next time the quiet stretches longer than you'd like, don't assume the worst. Ask yourself instead, what if this silence isn't rejection? What if it's regulation? What if this is what healing sounds like? Because sometimes the most powerful kind of communication isn't verbal at all. It's the shared stillness between two people who are finally learning that peace doesn't mean disconnection. It means safety. That's the silence that feels different. And once you recognize it, you'll never fear it again. Here's the next signal. And it's one most people miss because they're looking for grand gestures when what matters is subtle. Signal number 5, they reach out first. Now, I know what you're thinking. It was just a meme. It was a random check-in. It didn't mean anything. But it did. For an avoidant, initiating contact is a breakthrough. Because that one small moment, a text, a call, a story, reaction isn't about content. It's about courage. Avoidants don't reach out for attention. They reach out when their fear loses, even for a second, to their longing. That's what you're witnessing. That's not manipulation. That's movement. Because every time they initiate, even in the smallest way, they're overriding the voice in their head that says, don't need anyone, don't risk it, don't get close. They're choosing connection over control. And for someone who spent years hiding behind distance, that choice is monumental. So when they do reach out, don't interrogate it. Don't rush to decode it. Don't say, why now? Or where have you been? Those questions come from fear. And fear kills the very safety they're trying to build. Just meet the moment with calm presence. Match their energy. Receive it with warmth, but not urgency. Something like, it's good to hear from you does more healing than 1,000 paragraphs ever could, because it doesn't corner them, it welcomes them. Here's what most people don't realize. For an avoidant, every contact attempt is a test of safety. They're not testing you consciously. They're testing the feeling. Will I get pulled back into pressure? Will this be calm or chaos? Your response teaches them the answer. So if you meet that small contact with neutrality, not need, if you can stay steady instead of reactive, you pass the test they didn't even know they were giving. And in that moment, something shifts in their nervous system. They start to learn, this person feels safe. This connection doesn't demand. This love doesn't chase. That's what makes them come back. Not strategy, not silence, not manipulation, but the quiet confidence that tells their body it's okay to want this. So let's reframe it right now. Stop measuring connection by quantity. Start measuring it by quality. Because one genuine, self-led moment of contact from an avoidant is worth 1,000 forced conversations. It's not about how often they reach out. It's about why they did. They reached out because something inside of them missed your energy, the calm, the safety, the peace that felt like oxygen. And the beauty is, you didn't chase it this time. You didn't plead for it. You created space, and space became the invitation. That's the quiet power of self-respect. It calls people in without a word. So when they reach out, don't make it about validation. Make it about awareness. See it for what it is, not a message, a milestone. Because when someone who's built their identity around emotional distance decides to break that silence, that's not a coincidence. That's growth. That's evolution. That's love in translation. Now, this next one, this is the moment that separates avoidance from awareness. Signal number 6, they start asking for space instead of escaping into it. That right there is emotional evolution. Because for most avoidants, space has always been an act of survival. It's not a request, it's a reflex. They don't say, I need time. They vanish. They don't explain. They withdraw. Because explaining means exposure. And exposure feels like danger. But something powerful happens when healing begins, when the relationship starts to feel safe. They stop running from space and start negotiating it. When an avoidant says, I just need a little time, do you understand how monumental that is? It means they finally believe this connection can survive honesty. They're saying, I trust you enough to tell you before I disappear. And that's not avoidance, that's growth. See, emotional maturity isn't about never needing space. It's about communicating it. And when they start doing that, they're practicing intimacy in the only way they know how, through honesty instead of evasion. But here's where it gets tricky. When you hear, I need space, your old wounds flare up. Your mind says, here we go again, they're leaving. Your heart starts preparing for loss. That's when you have to do something new too. Because if you respond with panic, they'll retreat again. If you argue, they'll shut down. But if you breathe, if you say, okay, I understand, take what you need, their entire nervous system gets a new message. Space doesn't destroy connection. That's what heals them. That's what rewires the pattern. When you respect their boundary without taking it personally, you teach them that love can coexist with freedom. You teach them that intimacy doesn't mean suffocation. You teach them that they can be honest and still be held with respect. And you heal something in yourself too. You start to realize that love isn't measured by how tightly you hold on, but by how calmly you can let go without fear. That calm, that centeredness becomes magnetic. It becomes the reason they come back differently next time. Because they remember how it felt to be met with understanding instead of demand. So when they ask for space, don't see it as rejection. See it as evolution. It means they're learning to trust you with their truth. It means they're finally brave enough to risk being seen, even in their distance. And here's the paradox. The more freedom they feel, the more closeness becomes possible. Because connection that honors autonomy, that's not fragile love. That's mature love. So when they say, I need space, meet it with grace. Because in that moment, they're not walking away. They're walking toward trust. Here's the final signal. And if you've seen it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Signal number 7, they return, but differently. Now listen, this isn't about the text, the call, or the sudden reappearance. It's about the energy behind it. Because when an avoidant returns differently, it's not about needing you back. It's about finally feeling safe enough to come forward without the mask. See, before, when they came back, it was cautious. You felt it. They were testing the water, not diving in. They'd hover. They'd say just enough to keep you near, but never enough to be clear. That's not love. That's fear trying to look functional. But this time, when they've done some work, when silence has taught them what escape can't, they come back slower, steadier, and more honest. You'll notice it right away. Their language shifts. They ask questions instead of defending. They listen instead of reacting. They're not here to win, they're here to understand. That's the moment you realize something has changed. Not just in them, but in you. Because now you're not reacting from fear either. You're not waiting for the old patterns. You're grounded. You're calm. And that energy, the peace you've built, becomes the foundation for something new. But let me make this clear. Them coming back differently isn't your victory. It's not proof you were right. It's proof that growth works. It's evidence that when you stopped chasing and started centering yourself, you changed the emotional equation. Your silence wasn't a punishment, it was a boundary. Your peace wasn't distance, it was dignity. And that energy taught them more than any conversation ever could. Now, here's the test. When they come back, will you respond from the old you or the new you? Because if you slip into old patterns, over-explaining, proving, performing, they'll subconsciously feel that same imbalance again. But if you stay centered, curious, but not craving, open, but not over-invested, you'll notice something amazing. They mirror your calm. They follow your energy. Because peace, when embodied, becomes contagious. This is how transformation works in relationships. It's not about who left or who returned. It's about who learned. So when they show up differently, meet them with the same stillness that got you here. No scoreboard, no drama, no grand declarations, just truth. Let your energy say what words never could. I'm not the person I was when you left, and you don't have to be either. That's the moment love becomes conscious. It's not about control anymore. It's about choice. They're not returning to the old dynamic. They're returning to a safer space. And that space exists because you built it. So don't rush it. Don't label it. Just observe it. Because whether they stay or go, one truth remains. Your peace changed the entire field. And that right there is the real miracle. This is where it all comes together. Because everything you've heard until now, every signal, every insight leads to this final truth. Your role is not to repair them. It's to reflect them. You can't fix someone's fear. You can't teach them safety through control. You can't earn the love of someone who's still learning how to receive it. But you can show them what emotional maturity looks like. You can reflect calm instead of chaos, patience instead of panic, compassion instead of control. That's your power. See, for so long, you thought your love had to prove something. You believed that if you explained enough, texted enough, reassured enough, they'd finally see your worth. But all that energy wasn't healing the relationship. It was feeding the pattern. Because the harder you tried to fix them, the more they needed protection. And that's the moment most people miss. Avoidance doesn't heal through pursuit. It heals through reflection. When you hold your peace instead of chasing theirs, you become a mirror showing them what safety actually looks like. When you stop trying to pull them closer and start standing still in truth, they finally have space to meet themselves. That's when growth begins. But reflection takes strength. It takes self-trust. It takes the willingness to stop making their silence your fault. Because here's the truth. They are not your responsibility. Their healing is not your job. And your peace is not up for negotiation. So when you feel the urge to fix, to reach out, to explain, to restabilize the connection, pause. Ask yourself, am I trying to connect or am I trying to control? Because real connection only happens when both people are taking responsibility for their own emotions. And that's where your transformation begins. You stop trying to win their love and you start remembering your own. You stop asking, when will they change? And you start asking, what can I change in me? That's emotional leadership. And let me tell you something. Your calm is the most magnetic force in any relationship. When you are grounded, no one can destabilize you. When you know your worth, no one can make you question it. And when you stop reacting to fear, you become the safest person in the room. That's what makes people wake up. Not your words, not your waiting, your energy. Because energy doesn't lie. It says, I'm here, but I'm whole. I love you, but I love me more. I'll hold space for you, but I won't abandon myself to do it. That's the line between attachment and alignment. So no matter what happens next, whether they return or not, remember this. You already broke the cycle. You already ended the chase. You already came home to yourself. And from here, everything changes. You stop needing closure because you are the closure. You stop needing them to choose you because you've already chosen peace. And that's the power of reflection. It doesn't demand, it demonstrates. It doesn't rescue, it reveals. It shows the other person who they could become by showing up as who you already are. So from this point forward, make this your practice. Don't fix, don't chase, don't shrink. Just reflect. Reflect your clarity. Reflect your calm. Reflect your worth, because that's not silence. That's self-respect. That's what healing sounds like when it's real. And when you live from that place, when you stop reacting and start embodying, something extraordinary happens. You no longer attract chaos. You attract peace that matches your own. That's not the end of the story. That's the beginning of your freedom. Take a breath. Right here, right now. Let yourself feel how far you've come just by understanding what all of this really means. This wasn't a story about them. It was a story about you, about the way you've been showing up in love, about the way you've been trying to fix what was never yours to repair, about the way you've confused chasing for connection and silence for punishment. And maybe, for the first time, you see it clearly. Their distance wasn't rejection. It was protection. Their silence wasn't emptiness. It was a reflection. And your stillness, your decision to stop running after validation, that was rebirth. Because something happens when you stop fighting for someone to meet you. You start meeting yourself. You stop asking, why did they pull away? And you start asking, what was I running from inside me? That's where growth lives, in that question. In that quiet, the silence between you was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to teach you boundaries, to teach you patience, to teach you what self-worth sounds like when it's no longer begging to be seen. And if you've learned anything from this, I hope it's this. Peace is not distance. Peace is clarity. The moment you stop using love as a rescue mission and start using it as a reflection of your own alignment, you become unstoppable. So today, as you walk back into your world, into your healing, into your relationships, into your own silence, remember, you don't have to earn connection. You embody it. You don't have to chase peace. You are it. Because the truth is, healing doesn't start when someone comes back. It starts when you finally stop leaving yourself. That's the real ending of this story. Not reunion, reclamation. And from this moment forward, every quiet space, every pause, every deep breath, that's not loneliness. That's your power returning home. You're not waiting anymore. You're awakening.